The Chapel of the Cross of Calderón provides a rest spot for the pilgrims. In the chapel, a stone cross is a memorial to the early Battle of Sangremal between Indians who had accepted the Christian faith and those who had not. In the midst of the battle, a cross appeared in the sky. The holy woman uses water and flowers to cleanse and bless the pilgrims. She invokes the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, to care for the pilgrims, to bring them safely to Our Lady of Remedies and safely home. This day they walk, once again, connected in time with all who have gone before, part of what has been called El Pueblo Eterno. Some walking today continue a pilgrimage for years, decades, because of a heavenly favor once received, now long forgotten. Some healing, some reprieve from disaster. For some, a new urgent need brings them to Our Lady. The Spanish leader Hernán Cortés and his men placed great confidence in the Virgin Mary, Nuestra Señora de los Remedios. They carried her small image into battle and once hid it for safety near a large cactus. The image was lost to them for 20 years, but when recovered, gradually came to be honored by everyone, Spanish and Mexican people alike. Many replicas of the figure, such as the one in Comonfort, give focus to strong local veneration of the Virgin Mary. The parish priest welcomes each group of pilgrims as they arrive from neighboring places. A broad, slanted walkway is provided for those who choose to approach the church on their knees, a practice more common in smaller towns and villages. It is discouraged in Mexico City because of the danger of diseases transmitted by blood, AIDS, malaria, hepatitis. The tiny figure of Our Lady of Remedies stands upon a shining cactus. Viva our Mother of Remedies. Viva Christ the King. Viva the faithful pilgrims. Viva those who give us music. South to the valley of Oaxaca, friars of the Dominican order settle in the very shadow of Monte Alban, the great civic and religious center that has existed for more than 1,300 years. For the Zapotec Mixtec peoples, the transition to the Christian era was painful, physically and spiritually.
The discovery and conquest of Mexico was a new phenomenon. Nothing had prepared the Spaniard to handle it. There was no preconceived plan or program of what to do with the Indians. In the first place, they didn't know there was anybody here. The main purpose, at least the avowed purpose, the official purpose, was to expand Christianity by converting the Indians to Christianity. Of course, there was the other very strong motive, the discovery and acquisition of wealth, gold and etc., and conquest. But as far as the education of the Indians was concerned, everything was improvised.
Es importante la forma como trabajaron los dominicos aquí.
The manner in which the Dominicans worked here is of importance. From the arrival of the first friar to Oaxaca in 1528, all the friars had the obligation to know the language of the Indians for the evangelization. The friars are distributed from here, throughout the state of Oaxaca and the surrounding area, to 60 convents in the Mixteca, here in the valley, on the coast with the Zapotecas.
Members of the Franciscan order, the Dominican order, the Augustinian order were really saintly men who were devoted to the conversion of the Indians and also to their protection from the rapacious conqueror.
The Dominican friar Bartolomé de las Casas worked courageously to protect the Indians from the excesses of Spanish rule. Above all, he upheld the Indians' right to live according to his own conscience in spiritual matters. Las Casas insisted that Christ's teachings be offered, not imposed, an ideal for which the world was not yet prepared. In place of the old gods, the Dominicans offered the saints, especially the Virgin Mary. December 18th is the feast of Mary, La Virgen de la Soledad, the patroness of the state of Oaxaca. The image of Mary alone at the foot of the cross, La Soledad, completes the circle of Christ's life. Whereas Our Lady of Guadalupe portrays Mary with child, bringing Christ to the world, La Virgen de la Soledad accompanies him to the cross, to the death for which he was born. No one knows where the two figures, the crucified Christ and the Virgin Mary, came from. The images are rendered in traditional European style, and the story of their mysterious origin follows a traditional European pattern, but in a Mexican setting. Legend has it, in the early 1600s, they arrived in a box, carried by a burro. The burro reached the streets of Oaxaca and refused to move. When the strange box was opened, the two figures were found. People come into the city of Oaxaca from all over the state to be part of the December celebration of Mary's fidelity and the transformation of her motherhood at the foot of the cross. On the eve of the Feast of La Soledad, people dance in the streets from church to church until the early hours of the morning. The women and girls dance as of old, with baskets of flowers on their heads. The floral designs honor the Virgin: lilies for her purity, stars for Mary, morning star, star of the sea. Near midnight, the dancers approach the central plaza in front of the cathedral. Monos, large papier-mâché figures, are part of a tradition brought from Spain. Boys and men join the women in the lively dance of the monos, with music supplied by local bands. The distinctive colors and rhythms of Oaxaca demonstrates the adaptive quality of the Zapotec Mixtec culture, which survives today. One of the most beloved Christian traditions in Mexico is the Posada, enacted during the 9 days that end with Christmas. In Oaxaca, the Posada begins during the week of the Feast of La Soledad. In reenactments of Joseph and Mary's search for lodging in Bethlehem before Christ's birth, children go from house to house asking for shelter. A story that goes on and on. At the end of the search, doors are opened and a piñata party follows. Traditionally, the bright colors stand for Satan and his deceiving, shining appearance. Some recall that the points of the stars represent deadly sins. Singers of La Tuna de Antequera, dressed as European troubadours of the 16th century, make their way through the dark streets for the Feast of La Soledad. An orchestral group enters first. During Mass, their sedate and haunting music throbs through the church. Later, the troubadours make their way forward, and the church is filled with songs of love.